myself. Go online and find that girl. Find the girl that you're like, oh my God, she's fucking hot. She's fucking incredible.
See,
Like,
I felt we were talking about different things because when I'm thinking standards, I'm not thinking looks at all.
Oh, and that's fine. But somebody could be thinking
looks.
Like
expectations, I mean expectations from a relationship.
Yeah, like a behavioral standpoint. Person. Yeah. You're talking about like a behavioral standpoint.
Like, I mean, I agree that you should still be like, oh, well, is that something that I'm actually able to like sustain, and is that something that I can like keep up with? Which I feel like maybe sometimes the answer is no. But to be fair, I feel like that thought happens more for men than it does for women. Maybe. You know what I mean? Like, although there have been, and you've said sentences like this before, where it hints at like, if you don't match the physical criteria, I'm not fucking with you.
See, so that's the thing. And, so like, I think like, for instance, there is this assumption, not assumption, but
hold on, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I don't think you're wrong for that.
No, for sure.
I think that expectations on a physical level or an appearance level, even on a superficial level and on a behavioral level, I think all of those expectations are fine. Yeah. Just as long as you're okay with the consequences of those expectations.
So like, I feel like I only struggle with that because I guess I just see it differently, and I don't know if that's why. But
well, you also don't strike me as a very shallow person. So like,
but not even that. But I think like, I don't think of me having expectations of somebody's looks, not because I would just date anyone.
She's like, I still got a standard. A little bit.
Right. Just a little bit. Because, like, it doesn't have to, like...
It's not a deal breaker.
It would be weird to, like, be like, they have to have these specific features. You know what I mean? Like, they have to be this... Well, I was going to say they have to be this tall, but they do. They have to have, like, this
that is something,
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But, like... If you have like a very,
but I think in general, like
if I am
it's
a generalization.
You can be attracted to anyone. So as long as I'm attracted to you, like 100%. I guess that's the expectation. Right. I'm not the kind of person who's gonna like be like, oh, well, I'm not attracted to them, but maybe that attraction will grow.
But also that goes to what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you might have like a height standard in terms of like baseline expectations, but after you meet somebody and you're attracted to them, that standard might be like, all right, that's out the window.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't need it now.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and that's the point that I was making in terms of like, realize which expectations you have are like part of the blank check, and which expectations you have that are like, no, these are like actually like ground, these are like non-negotiable.
I think for the most part, like generalization is the generalization for like the consensus of people is that if you think only about looks, you're going to be really unhappy in life because you're really not going to find somebody that's going to be like feeding you what you need intellectually, like and everything else,
unless
fundamentally.
Not that kind of person.
Unless you're not that kind of person, because there are people who really just care about looks and don't give a fuck about anything else.
Their entire, for instance, their entire existence is
it's just about how they look and like status, based off of like what you were saying about me. I'm like, yes, I lean a little bit more towards the middle for the like idea is that like, yes, I do have a relatively high expectation of what I want in a person fundamentally, but because I know what I can give fundamentally now. Right. So I am aware of,
gonna get to that
point. I'm aware that I can give a lot of really genuinely good things fundamentally. And I'm also aware that I want someone who's very attractive in my eyes. And I don't necessarily have like a specific criteria of like, they have to have this, and this. But I would be like, okay, generally, I'd like them to be around this height. I generally want them to be
and you can
around
probably
this,
bend
whatever.
Those rules every a little bit, depending
on the personality.
Like, I don't think that's like, I mean, like, yeah, sure, there are those people out there that are like, have you all watched Love is Blind?
No.
There is this guy on this season who is just, I mean, a menace to society.
A menace.
Like, he is.
Which one? What's his name?
His name is Shake. But so the whole premise of Love is Blind is like, is love really blind? Like, can you have like an emotional connection? And is that strong enough to sustain whatever?
It's the old, like, we met online thing.
We're going to make the note, yes. We're going to make the note that like, that doesn't really apply because everybody on that show is like pretty conventionally attractive. You know what I mean? Like nobody is like ugly, so it's like what, like nobody's gonna be that upset. Like even if you're not their type, it doesn't matter. They already had you know what I mean? Anyways, but he was making like he went into the pods, which are the rooms from which they speak like through the wall or whatever, and he would ask like women like, what their size are, or like how tall they are, or like if he would be able to like carry them on his shoulder at a music festival. Like he was trying to gauge like what they look like and stuff like that. And I mean, it was like a little bit of a bigger problem too. He's Indian, I think, and he was also saying that he had only dated like white women in the past, and so he kind of had this like, it was a whole fucking thing. But the whole point of it is that he would be like, well, but that's just a preference. Like, that's just like that's just my preference. Like, everybody has a fucking preference.
Sure.
And it's like, but nobody's being dictating their entitled like dating life by this preference.
You'd
and
be
I feel
surprised.
like, well, I'm saying like in general, but people who are actually trying to have like
meaningful
a
relationships,
and that goes back
and an emotional connection, like that's different. Yeah, I've talked to guys that I was only like attracted to that I knew I wasn't gonna like marry or or anything like that. But that's dating. Yeah, like that's just like I'm just hanging out with this person.
Said like the dating scene now happens in pockets, because you said something very specifically. Do women do things to ward off those kinds of men? And my answer to that is it's kind of complicated, because we live in a world where where no longer is the first date the first time that you get to experience somebody. We live in a world where I can ask you out, but I also have a gauge of somewhat of your personality, or where at least you're trying to portray through Instagram, through maybe your Snapchat story, through your story on Instagram, through Facebook, through all these things.
Through where you found this person.
Through where you found this person.
Hinge, all those things, you know what that means.
In which I met you, kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I can't blame anybody for coming up with assumptions based on all of those things and then saying, well, I'm not going to act this way with this person yet, maybe. Yeah. Right? To your point. There are guys out there, not to say that this is the standard, but there are guys out there that may see somebody online acting in a very kind of maybe frivolous, independent kind of way, and it may make them say, okay, well, that's not the kind of girl that I want to make those kinds of long-term gestures for. That might be the kind of girl that I just want to date right now because it might be fun, and should it evolve into that thing, then I will reevaluate, and I might make those romantic gestures.
And you know what,
right
though?
now, in the moment, I might not.
That just feels like not a real problem, because if that like
no, I wasn't saying it was a problem. I was just speaking to your
like what I said, mentioned
in terms of warding off, because I'm sure men do the same thing. I'm sure men might like look a certain way and look very like superficial or like not have any substance, and women might be like, nah, I can't, like, sorry, bro, like I can't.
But I feel like that's a different
women
question.
do that though. I mean, because like based off of what you're saying, this sounds, I'm gonna air my shit out right now, but like as somebody who's like in the dating scene right now, there are specific people, because I did ward it as like warding off, like specific actions that girls do that you might be like, ooh, girl, you're not that kind of girl for me, but you might be this kind of girl for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there are guys in the dating scene that I'm in that I'm like, ooh, baby, you're not that kind of guy for me, but you know, that one might be, because this one is studying to be a doctor. This one's just a fuck boy over here. You know what I mean?
The question very differently.
So it does, because I wouldn't act a specific way with the fuck boy than I would act with the other one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, and those gestures might be
looking for romantic gestures out of the fuck boy.
Absolutely. I wouldn't expect it, and nor do I want it.
If the fuckboy did a romantic gesture, you'd probably be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? In the relationship.
Right. So back to your specific, to your original comment, like, are we just not attracting those men?
Yeah.
Like, no, maybe those men are just not those kind of men in the moment for those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
makes
saying?
sense. Also, I do think that a lot of it has to do with, it's just the type of the kind of person that you are with specific people, because there's always the vibes. Okay, like literally, like there's specific people who you just innately feel very comfortable with, and these kinds of things don't feel like some sort of grand gesture to you, because it just feels supernatural. Right. Meanwhile, with somebody else, you're like, this kind of feels forced. I kind of don't want to do it, but this girl's kind of expecting me to do it, so I kind of have to. Now, but it's not as comfortable as it would be for somebody who's you're like just vibing with, and you're like, this is just great.
Two points on that. it's happened to me where I'm like maybe on a first or second date kind of thing, and then like I'm trying to trying to see if this is going to be like a relationship or if this is just going to be like, is this going to fizzle out, right? And I might do the $70 date, or I might do the, all these kind of like small things that I don't necessarily feel are overly romantic, but they might be just like a this is my way of like
your standard
proceeding through these kinds of social things, right? And in the moment, they've been turned off by that. By those kinds of gestures, by like the
you were saying that
woman like having that kind of date that I described, or creating a more like less monetary interaction, but more of like a more thoughtful gesture, walk in the park. Let's have a more romantic kind of thing. And to my surprise at the time, they're like, that's just kind of not what I'm looking for right now, which is totally fair.
Yeah.
If I was to like get out of that situation and be like, what the fuck? But like, this is what you guys should want, then I'm already fucking up. Because even though you may want that kind of gesture, it doesn't necessarily mean that like everybody wants that gesture. Right. Like, but that's what I was trying to see if it was going to be. I wanted to see if it was going to turn into a relationship, whether I wanted to one day say,
but you weren't in the relationship yet.
No, but
I think that's like, I think that's where the disconnect is. Right. It's like, again, like, that's really nice. If somebody did that to me and we are not like officially boyfriend and girlfriend, I would be like, oh, okay.
So you don't think?
Thanks.
So
like,
you don't think it's
mean,
like a requirement? Not a requirement.
I'm not thinking of those gestures in terms of like how you're getting me into the relationship, or how you're like romancing me or anything like that. I'm talking like people who
once you've already made a connection with them,
established relationship, like you're in a relationship with these people.
But wouldn't you say
should have these expectations?
Wouldn't you say, wouldn't it be fair if that's not what you're expecting out of the dating scene, or at least a fraction of that in the date, whenever you're like not in a fully committed relationship yet? Wouldn't the argument still be valid that like, if I didn't set that precedent before, why should I do it then?
Well,
like if you weren't used to that in the dating phase, why would you expect that in the like? Haven't you heard older women say that?
Oh
If he treats you like this before you're married, what do you expect when you're married?
Don't expect that.
It's the same thing when it's the other way around. It's like, well, if they're doing it at the beginning, then you're gonna expect. But I think there's a level to which you can do it when you're dating, where you can be like, I'm still doing something.
Maybe like a less.
Like there's a level to which you can do it, but again, you have to remember that you're like dating.
Yeah,
and it's just like, again, it should be. I mean, I'm obviously only speaking from my experience, but like it shouldn't even be like a huge gesture. You can still show it in a small, because otherwise,
I've thought about you today. Here's like gesture, this, like I saw this and I thought about you.
Oh, I know we talked about this the other day, and I just like, I knew that you were talking about how you really liked it, and like I got whatever.
Yes,
like that's
it's
really
consideration.
Nice. If it's if it feels too like
grandiose,
we're in a couple and you're like trying to be my boyfriend right now, and you're not, then I'm gonna be like, so the only reason why you're like, you have a motive behind why you're doing it. You're not just doing it because you want to, because you were like, oh, this will be really cute, or she would really like this, or like she was mentioning this and I think she will really enjoy this. You're doing it because you're trying to make a point. Like that's, I feel like how it can often, but
well, no, because I think there's also a difference.
Like 2 to 3 dates in, it's like we don't know each other that well. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So why are you making it such a, like, you don't even know me well enough to choose if we are gonna be in a relationship right now, so you shouldn't be making these gestures.
I agree with you 100%. But I also think that you might be part of a very, in those groups that I was talking about in the dating scene, you might be part of a very specific group.
Sure.
Because there's other women that are like, if he doesn't do X, Y, and Z on the first date, there's no second date.
100%.
And like, as a guy, that's a very intimidating thing to think about.
But
because you're like, what kind of woman is she? I don't know. I don't know what kind of woman. So I should like try to hit everything as I possibly can so that I can gauge where it is that I am.
But then you're just trying to be whoever she wants you to be, and that's the fucking point. Yeah. It's like, like men are so fucking worried about like, oh, but this girl said this, but this other girl that I dated said that, and all I'm hearing is, baby, you were just not the right one for either of them.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it wasn't in you to do, like, you didn't fit any of those expectations.
The criteria.
And that's fine.
Right.
But I think that's the problem. It's like, That's what, like, I was watching a video and somebody was saying, like, yeah, I never, like, really say, you know, when people are like, so what do you want, like, out of a relationship?
Oh my God, yes.
They're like, I don't say what I want. Like, I'm not going to lay it down for you, because then you're just going to do it because you're, like...
You're trying to get in there,
You're trying to, like, get on the right side.
And that's not fun,
That's not how it works. It's like, you're either that person or you're not. If you're not, that's fine, but that just means I'm not dating.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think men, I feel like a lot of times they approach a relationship as something they're trying to, like, conquer and something they're trying to, like, get. They're like, I already like this girl enough to, like,
try and make something happen. Yeah.
Which is, like, that's a red flag. You don't know me.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't know me enough.
Sure.
So you shouldn't want it this bad.
Yeah, being yourself should be the MO at all times. But you're also living in a world where social media exists and superficiality exists, and you might want to break that cycle or break that stereotype or break that thing about you or about them, or so I can tell you that in situations where I've been dating, I have often thought about those things, not because I'm going to act in that way because that's how I am. I might end up still being myself, but I'm aware of it because because I'm trying to gauge what kind of person is in front of me. Again, like you said, I don't know you. Yeah. So how are you? Based on how I act or based on what I do or how this date goes, you're gonna learn things about me and I'm gonna learn things about you.
Sure.
But
you're still thinking about. You're still thinking about, like, what is she expecting from me?
Right, in the same way that you are thinking that if you were in a relationship, you're gonna want those gestures that you're romanticizing right now.
Date, you should be thinking, like, okay, well, this is what I want. Does she fit that?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, like, I think that's the problem a lot of times. It's men are being, like, I feel like you said this last time, too. You were like, I feel like we're in, like, an interview. And like men are usually that's like, I can see why that is a recurring issue. And I am telling y'all, break it up, bitch. Yeah. Like, let's work through this, like, expectation that they have, or let's work through this, like, concept that y'all have placed on yourselves, because you should be trying to get to know her and see if she is a good match for you. Sure. Way more than you should be trying to see if you're a good match for her.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it doesn't.
I agree with that 100%.
If there's a girl sitting across from you and they're like, you're like noting all of these expectations that she has, or you're making assumptions, whether they're true or not, about what she might be expecting from a relationship, what she might be like as a girlfriend, and all these things. Yeah. You should not be evaluating. I mean, I guess, like, obviously in passing, like, you'll still evaluate and be like, oh, that, like, I'm not like that. Like, this is not going to work. But you should also be like, oh, these are my expectations. Are they meeting those? Yeah. Because already, if you're questioning yourself and being like, these are her expectations and I'm not usually like that, then done. That's not like...
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree with that 100%. And you can be my witness to this here. Most, if not all, the women that I've dated and broken up with has been for that. Because I'm just like, you don't meet the things that I wanted. And... you know what I mean? Like, regardless of how much time has passed by, like, and, you know, all of these things, it has now, I've come to the conclusion that, like, this isn't working out, or this is, and I've made that decision.